All right, joining us right now is Mr. Pawan Khera of the Congress Party. Thank you very much, Mr. Khera. What would be your first reaction to the manner in which these exits are taking place? I mean, Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad is a very, very tall leader. He has raised issues or matters of his concern in internal party forums also, and now has written a letter, 5-page letter, which leaders like Omar Abdullah say is very painful to read. So, what will you say?
No, it's always Sanket, a sad moment when leaders like Ghulam Nabi Azad or anyone else leaves an organization. It's a long association, and obviously we've had our experiences, good, bad, ugly, with these leaders. So when they leave, it's never a good feeling. There's no doubt about that. So if I say that okay, fine, let him go away, I would be lying.
Now, I'm sure you must have read that letter. What do you think is the import of that letter for the Congress Party?
I read that letter, and the first 1.5 pages were dedicated to all the positions that he's had so far in his career, in his 50-year career. And then he says on the second page that he served the party selflessly. So I found it a little amusing also. So you first, on the one hand, you say, okay, I've been this in the party, but I've done it all selflessly. So if you're so selfless, this is the time, this is the test of your selflessness. When you have no position, when you have no Raj Sabha, nothing at all, this is the time, this is the test. Do it outside your Lutyens bungalow zone. Fight. Toil the way all of us are toiling. Maybe your age doesn't permit you to toil. Fair enough, out of respect for that. Then guide us. We are there to take your guidance. You can't just, just because you don't get a Raj
Mr. Khera, precisely on that point, Ghulam Nabi Azad in his letter also says that Rahul Gandhi is not open to guidance or criticism or any form of, he has very scant respect for experience.
I am very amused with this observation of his. I think, from whatever I have understood of Rahul Gandhi, Sanket, he gives everybody's opinion a chance. He listens to everyone and then lets everyone come together and decide. That's the way he is. Now, if Mr. Azad's suggestions may have been overruled by someone else, so okay, so be it. You're not the only experienced person. And when you joined Mrs. Indira Gandhi, what experience? You didn't have any experience. So your experience also gradually you built up on your experience. Likewise, we are all building up on our experience. You can't today turn around and say, oh, now all these people are inexperienced sycophants against me, who's an experienced guy. I mean, what is he even trying to say? Everybody starts somewhere. Sanket, when you started journalism, you were not experienced journalist. You became an experienced journalist later. Likewise, Mr. Azad also became an experienced leader thanks to the various opportunities given to him by the Congress Party.
True. No, but then, Mr. Khera, the point is that now that he was this tall, experienced leader, the tone and tenor of his letter says that he felt that his experience was not being valued. That he gained experience is not something that he has denied. But the value of that experience in his party was something that he questioned. And it's not just him. I mean, there are a whole host of leaders who are either quitting or are upset. For instance, Mr. Anand Sharma. These are just recent examples. Otherwise, the list is fairly long.
Sanket, how does a party or an organization value someone's merit? By giving that someone a particular platform, allowing him to perform on that platform. Like in this case, it was the Raj Sabha. Mr. Azad, until recently, was in the Raj Sabha. Let him judge for himself. How was his performance? I have nobody to judge. I'm too junior as against Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad. But to say that the party did not acknowledge his capabilities is a gross lie. You yourself in your letter say that these are the posts that I got. Getting those positions is an acknowledgement by the party of your merit or the lack of it, whatever it is. I don't want to judge him. I'm sure he has had several qualities and therefore he was given those opportunities.
Mr. Khera, this point has also come forward where the BJP and Ghulam Nabi Azad are saying this together, almost together, that the Congress, instead of going for a Bharat Jodo Yatra, must undertake a Congress Jodo Yatra. And so we also saw Mr. Jairam Ramesh's tweet where he said that GNA's DNA has that been modified.
Yeah, if they start talking in the same language.
Is this a cryptic message that you are trying to send out to Mr. Azad?
No, there is no message to Mr. Azad. But if they're talking in the same language as you yourself just said, what else do we conclude? But that's a fair conclusion to make on the part of Mr. Jairam Ramesh. We saw how the Prime Minister, I think for the first time in his political life, shed tears in the Parliament for Ghulam Nabi Azad. So we know there is a soft corner there. We know there is some kind of a jugalbandi happening there.
They were remembering an old incident, a terrorist attack in Jammu and Kashmir, where Gujaratis were killed. That was the context in which they cried.
Fair enough. But we've known how Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad and his proximity to Mr. Modi. Fair enough. I mean, everybody is free to have these kinds of relationships. Fair enough. I don't want to comment on that. But if they start talking in the same language, then obviously there is something happening, no?
You know, Mr. Pawan Khera, I remember you making this statement on a number of occasions where, Congress is more about left and right and not left versus right. It's a melting pot, an amalgamation of ideas where different people from different walks of life can come and share ideas. And then when you say that, his language is similar as someone else's language, don't you think that these two statements are very contradictory?
No, but the language we are discussing here is not from an ideological debate. We are talking about, Bharat nahi jodo, Congress jodo. There is no ideology here, no? They are talking, they are essentially ridiculing something as grand and as essential to this moment as Bharat Jodo Yatra in the same language. And look at the timing of the letter, trying to undermine something which the country needs much more than the Congress. It's the country which needs Bharat Jodo. And if you're undermining this at this point, we know where you stand. And with who do you stand? We know all of this.
Mr. Khera, just a couple of quick questions before I let you go. With the number of these exits from the Congress party, don't you feel that politics, which is, of course, the world of perception more than reality, or as much a world of perception as reality, this does not send a very good and positive image of your party as you prepare to be that big driving force against the BJP in the run-up to 2024. For instance, what happens to the Congress position as far as unifying the opposition is concerned or uniting the opposition is concerned?
Sanket, this is not the first time a so-called tall leader has quit. 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, every decade I can give you a name where somebody as tall or even taller quit the Congress. Organizations like the Congress Party are, ये एक कारवां होता है जो चलता रहता है. कुछ लोग उतर जाते हैं, कुछ नए लोग चढ़ जाते हैं. I don't read too much into this. We learn from each other. We unlearn from the mistakes committed by some of our senior leaders. But the journey doesn't stop. The journey doesn't come to an end.
No, but, the acknowledgement that someone senior or so many people who are senior and experienced are hinting at the same thing. Don't you think that is a very strong message? Perhaps something that the Congress may want to learn.
I would have taken Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad.
Let me give you an example. Him saying, Mr. Khera, him saying that PAs and secretaries have more power, that they take decisions rather than leaders. Now, that's not a very, very positive message to send in the world of politics, which is a world of perception as much as reality.
No, this also reflects very poorly on the judgment of the man authoring this letter. Well, I hope in this case it is Mr. Azad himself and he hasn't taken a dictation from somebody else sitting in some other party. But this really doesn't, show Mr. Azad himself in a very good light. When you are in the driver's seat, when you are deciding things, you are deciding destinies of Congress workers, sitting in your Lutyens bungalow, then you are a part of the so-called haloed core group. But if somebody else is doing it today, oh, he's a sycophant, oh, he's a PA, oh, he's a security guard, oh, he's inexperienced. When you started out, as I said, Sanket, even Mr. Azad was inexperienced. He was made president of the Youth Congress. So why now? Why the choice of words?
Mr. Khera, you see what all he is saying. The points that he is making to come to the conclusion or arrive at the conclusion that there is some amount of immaturity. Tearing up of that of that letter, the ordinance in 2013. Then, of course, the point about secretaries completely shutting the door on criticism or feedback. Also, the point on the whole process of learning and the
Sanket,
the various incidents of failure. The fact that in so many years the Congress has not won very many elections.
Sanket, when did this tearing of ordinance happen? 2013?
Yeah.
We are sitting in 2022 now. In 2013, what has changed between 2013 and 2022 that Mr. Azad kept quiet then and is now talking about it? I'll tell you what has changed. In 2013, the same Mr. Azad was occupying an important position in the cabinet of Dr. Manmohan Singh. Therefore, he kept quiet. Am I to believe that? In 2013, Mr. Azad was also, of course, member of the Rajya Sabha. What has changed in 2022? Mr. Azad is neither a part of the cabinet nor is he a member of the Rajya Sabha. Is that the reason why he chooses to speak now about an incident that took place in 2013? What am I to believe? आप में हिम्मत तभी आती जब पद नहीं होता. जब पद होता है तो वो पद गंवाने का डर होता है. What is it? What is the reason? Why were you quiet all this while?
No, this point on 2019, which has come under sharp criticism internally also. I've learned from many senior Congress leaders that Rahul Gandhi gave up too easily. Like in 2019, after the defeat, he refused to be the party president. He still isn't the party president, and yet the allegation is that he is no less than the party president right now.
Let's deconstruct your question into two parts. One is, why did he resign as party president in 2019 after the defeat of Lok Sabha? Fine, valid question. Why didn't Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad sit down on a dharna protesting against this resignation like many of my colleagues did in the AICC, requesting Rahul Gandhi to withdraw his resignation? Why didn't Mr. Azad lead a campaign of sorts asking all CWC members to resign in solidarity with Rahul Gandhi, taking moral responsibility of the defeat? Was it just Rahul Gandhi's defeat? No, it was Pawan Khera's defeat also. We should all have resigned. Well, if we chose not to resign with Rahul Gandhi, who are we to judge Rahul Gandhi for his actions of resigning? We made our choices.
But my final question, do you feel that this inaction, inability to take over the reins and yet control via proxy, or have the control, remote control as he says, UPA's remote control has now become Congress remote control, is going to harm you in 2024?
Where is the interference? I demand from Mr. Azad. Let him tell us. Where is the interference? There is a proper system in place. There is a structure in place which takes important decisions. Unfortunately for Mr. Azad, he did not find himself in that structure. Therefore, this outburst. Therefore, this 5-page letter. I mean, it could have just been a 2-line letter. You don't have to write a long fiction, no? Okay, I hereby resign. That would have been the graceful thing to do.
But you see,
now,
Mr. Khera, my only request over here, see, to have a situation where since 2019, you do not have a proper Congress president, the interim president continues, and yet there are allegations. This fact is not hidden from anyone that Rahul Gandhi is he's not just any other MP. He calls the shots in your party, and yet he's not.
That is absolutely a lie. As I said, we have, like all organizations, we have a system in place. Individuals don't really run the show. It is the system which runs the show. And that's the way it should be in any organization. It could be your channel, it could be my party, it could be the BJP, it could be any other organization. So, saying, oh, he's running the show, by proxy is either too naive, which of course Mr. Azad is not. So it is something else, and now talking about the remote control.
No, this is the third time you have mentioned this. My final question: what is this something else that you are talking about? Modified, something else, some other party writing letter. What are you hinting at?
No, that something else is the remote control. Now we want to know.
Oh, he's also being remote controlled.
I definitely want to know who's remote controlling Mr. Azad. We'll see in weeks and months to come. It's not a coincidence. Well, I last reported his bungalow is still there, and next reports will tell you and me something else. You will see.
Okay. Hum dekhenge, as they say. Thank you very much, Mr. Pawan Khera, for joining us. Thank you so much. Thank you.